Okay, we're live. I want to welcome everybody for being here today and thank you for whatever you went through in order to get here today. Some of us came as short as 5 miles, and it may have taken us 20 minutes to get here because of traffic, and some of us came much longer distance. But you're here, and I thank you for coming on a Friday, right? When you could have taken a 3-day weekend, right? You came and you made a decision that this meeting was important. For that, I say thank you. I use my French, it's like, merci beaucoup. You know? So I just want to thank you for being here and joining us for this meeting, which is a very, very important meeting. So I want to start you off with an icebreaker. I prepared you for this. One of you said there's a lot that is going on this time of year. There is a lot. And I resonated with that because I can feel all that. So the question is, you can answer this in any way you want. What are you going to do for me time as you go through the rest of December? What is it that you're going to do? What is it that you want to do? What is it that you would like to do? What is it that you're going to do for me time so that it can help you relax and get back to who you are and not feel all this pressure that you're feeling? What is it that you want to do? What is it that you're going to do? What is it that you would like to do for me time? Just for you. So I see all the eyes rolling up. That means you're thinking. That's good.
I want to say nothing.
Okay, go ahead, say it. Tell me what nothing means.
Nothing means not doing anything at all, just vegetate.
So when you vegetate, how do you vegetate?
I would just maybe sit around and watch TV.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Favorite show?
I know there was like the endless reruns on VTV. So.
You're there.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay. Okay, so at the end of your check-in, you know you got to say, I'm in. Means you're here at this meeting and your focus is totally going to be here and not on everything else that's going on. So whenever you finish telling me,
well, I'm in.
and we say, welcome. Welcome. Okay, who's next? Me time. What are you going to do for me time? What would you like to do?
Okay, I'm going to go on camera since it's related. I hadn't thought about the time. I'm glad you brought that up. It's caused me to think about it. But I think mine is similar. I'd love to go on a trip and all that, but you can't because it's not the time to travel. I have I'm gonna sit in my hot tub and look at the TV, catch up on my Netflix my list that's growing but never getting any smaller. And you can do that in a couple hours at a time, so it's kind of nice. So I'm in my hot tub.
Welcome. I like that. Hot tub and watching TV. That's a good combination. Yeah, I like that. Okay, who's next? Okay.
I think I would like a slow morning.
Yeah. Just one?
Just one. I'll take one to the start, where I don't have to rush, I don't have to schedule. You know, it's just the possibility of the day and really strong. I'm in.
Welcome. Welcome. I like that. All right, come on, I want to hear from everybody.
Although mine might become more complicated. I have massages on Friday. All my shopping is done, but not my wrapping to have. Mani-pedis and more dog walks and Netflix, and I'm not going to go for dinner. I did it for Thanksgiving, so I did it for Christmas, so I'm that. And I'm all in.
Welcome.
And I'm glad to be here.
Welcome.
Go listen. Vegging out is awesome. I love doing that. But you know what really helps is yoga. So I love going to the yoga studio. Yes,
That's great. That one.
Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
really
and
I'm
also
gonna add it.
walking. I love walking. So I'm gonna pick up on that. And I'm all in.
Well,
Welcome.
Run and long walks. That's what,
runs and long
and
walks.
long walks, yep. Come in.
Welcome. We're going through the check-in stage, and while I'm gonna give you what we're doing so that you can think about it while the rest of us go ahead and give it. So the question is with everything that's going on in the holiday season, everything that's going on in your life, all the different pressures and stresses and everything that you got in your life that's coming at you or chasing you, what are you going to do for me? What would you like to do for me? If you had unlimited resources and unlimited time, what would you like to do for me? Okay, so give you some time to think, all who just walked in, and let's get going. You ready?
Keep it going. So I just went to my favorite bookstore and bought a big stack of books. So I'm looking forward to being off around the holidays, read some books while family's doing their thing around the house, and hoping to get that done here. So I'm all in.
I'm a book reader, not an online reader.
Yeah, gotta get that.
Okay, who hasn't gone?
I'll go. This may not sound like much downtime, but it's on my mind, because I just came from UC Davis, where I got to teach a class this fall on transportation policy. We just had our last class, and graduate students, and we did a mock California Transportation Commission hearing. We took over the Davis City Council chambers, 6 students presented, we had students in the dais playing commissioners, and it's been a really inspiring class. And one of the things I have just taken away from it, well, first of all, I've learned in this class, it's like my class. Second is this idea of just like the next generation of like young people who are involved in the work we do, but also basically sort of like teaching them how to civically engage, how to make a presentation, how to take hard questions from the dais. So this sounds strange, I know, which is completely on my mind. I'm like so excited to do this again next fall. So I want to, while it's fresh in my mind, I'm gonna just try to think about, and I have a co-teacher too, like we're gonna get together and think about like how we're gonna make it even better next year. And but these these students who have said like they're inspired and they like want to get into this field, it's just there's nothing like that. So that I'm in.
Welcome.
Yeah. Who else? Who hasn't gone?
Yes, I'll do. I'm more of a visual person, so I'm just a simpleton. Just sometimes I find myself just very simply like to veg out on sci-fi. I'm a superhero sci-fi geek, so I'll watch that stuff over and over again. Mostly because a lot of what I found out is all that fantasy stuff growing up, reading comic books and everything. I feel like it's talking about race, equity, and inclusion. I mean, all the superhero stuff is like representative of like what we want, right? People being accepting one another, and if you weren't, you had superpowers that reinforce that. But the whole idea about a just society, so it's kind of fun to watch that kind of stuff. It's really disconnect from all the stuff.
You in?
I'm in.
Welcome. You can't get out of this.
That's absolutely fine. I'm ready to share.
Let's do it.
The way that I'm gonna relax this holiday season, I actually just got the Home Alone house that's Lego version. So every night after work, there's 28 bags, and I've been doing 1 bag a day, and it's been great. It's about 45 minutes, just turn my brain off. I can see my progress, and it just helps me with just de-stress from work and kind of get zenned out. So I love it. It's my favorite new thing, and I'm in.
Welcome.
It's like an action.
You guys got a good feel for what we're doing? Okay.
Yeah, I would, unlimited resources and time, I would take at least a 3-month vacation somewhere where I could do nothing but meditate and maybe volunteer my time at a dog rescue facility so that it's out, like all those places you see in other worlds where there's acres and acres of stray dogs. So dogs are just in the moment all the time, and that's what I need to remind myself to do. So with that, I'm all in.
Okay.
Yeah, well, hard to top, always hard to top. So I'll never try, right? But I guess at my age, like, some start looking into Mustangs and Corvettes. Mrs. Martinez wouldn't have that. So actually our assistant probation chief has been pressuring me to run. So we're doing so I'm just watching all the CIM folks picking up their packets. So I had to wade through that a little bit. But so I'm starting out with a half marathon and my goal of an hour and 50, but that's aspirational. My son's like, that's still a jog. Yeah, you're 18, and so, but, doing that, I'm really appreciative of the trails that we have. It's good. So getting really just grateful for Miners Ravine and and just grateful to have access to such things. And so I actually get a lot of work done when I'm running. And so I didn't expect there to be such a community of runners too, and that people are really supportive of one another. So maybe next year I'll throw my hat to the CIM ring. But getting up to that point. So yeah, with that, I'm all in.
Welcome. Good? Got everybody?
I came in.
I didn't think so.
So I know that. So I'm not quite sure the question, but it seems like what you do with downtime.
Me time.
Me time.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Me time. It's all yours.
So me time for me is going to be transitioning from a summer garden to a winter garden. So I'm just about ready to take all my peppers and prune them back and put them aside so they'll grow out next year. And now I'm going to try root vegetables. So one thing I'm going to plant is probably garlic. Another thing I'm going to plant probably is going to be some type of yams. Let's see if I can just make it. I always do it just make it. And some winter greens. Yeah.
I want to see the link yam when you finish.
Yeah, well, I want to see the yam.
You in?
I'm in.
Welcome. Welcome. Am I the last person?
You can go.
No. I'm gonna shut it off when I finish.
Yeah, for me time in December, life is like wife, mom. For December's my time to kind of do my charitable giving and volunteering. So that's what I do for me time in December. It's tiring, but it's good me time. It's fulfilling. So, and I'm in.
Welcome. Okay, so I think it's me, and I appreciate all you for doing this. I hope you absolutely take advantage of what you said. Take at least one day to do it, right? Because I think it will help refresh you.
Sorry, Chair Jennings, before you go,
Okay.
can we invite Danielle to share?
Please.
Now,
Yeah.
I don't know if she was able to hear the prompt, but she couldn't join us in person, so she's listening in. But
Okay.
Danielle, do you know what the prompt is, and do you want to
Yeah.
share?
I heard the prompt. Yes, I'm ready. I actually have a spa day prepared for myself on Sunday, so I'm getting a facial and some other stuff done. So I'm excited for that, and just generally looking forward to not traveling anymore until mid-January, which is awesome. Because yeah, the fall has been full of flights and hotel rooms and Airbnbs for a variety of reasons. So just being at home and snuggling my very fat dog Paco is, yeah, that's my plan.
Are you in?
I'm in. I'm always in.
Welcome. Welcome. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna sleep late every day, till 10 o'clock at least. That's late for me. When I wake up, I turn on the TV, and I'm gonna watch my favorite forensic files. Because I'm a criminology major, so I know you can solve any kind of murder, crime, using forensics. I'm going to not answer my phone. I am not going to look at any emails, and I am not going to respond to any texts. I'm gonna put my headsets on, listen to all my favorite music. I'm gonna veg out in my bed without getting up, unless I need to for emergency reasons. When I finally get up from vegging out, I'm gonna cook dinner for my wife. Then after we eat dinner, we're gonna get back in the bed. We're gonna snooze together in the bed. So that's how I'm gonna veg out. If I can do that for 7 days in a row, that would be a miracle. But with that, I'm in. Don't text. Well, no, even if you text me, I'm not gonna answer. You can text all you want. I'm turning off all electronic gadgets, no, nothing. No emails, no nothing. Okay, so I wanna remind the group of our shared values and community agreements. And we have on the sheet, I wanna just make sure, I mean, there it is. Okay, good. The REI work group shared values. Okay. All right, we're getting close. We're good. I'll give you 30 seconds if you want to check in on what would you do if in fact you had a me time, where you could do anything you wanted to do, resources were not an issue, time was not an issue. You want to check in real quick?
I take a Disney cruise in the Bahamas with my grandchildren.
Is that you're in? You're in?
I'm all in.
Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Apologies for being late. I'm Lee Barnes. I think I would visit my grandmother in St. Thomas and get to know my dad's side of the family a little bit more. And stay as long as I want and go to the beach and just soak up that energy. That's what I would do.
That you're in?
Yes, I'm in.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so the shared values are up on the screen, on the large screen, they're on the small screen too, whichever one you get to. And I want us to ground ourselves in these shared values, which we've identified over the course of all of our meetings and our community agreements that we completed with our created with our values as well. And so I just want to ask the question, does anyone want to add to our community agreements? And I'll just read through them very quickly. No one knows everything. We all have something to learn and to offer. Move up, everyone is able to contribute. I'm prepared to participate and be present. Practice authenticity. Accept and expect non-closing. Recognize intersectionality and the difference between intent and impact. That intersectionality was not in my third grade reading class. So, still have a problem with that word. Practice self-awareness, extend grace and compassion. Agree to disagree. Find opportunities for this group to build trust. So I love these community agreements, but I just want to make sure that if there's anything else that we want to add to that, whether it's now or throughout the entire meeting or after the meeting, I'd like to at least hear from you as far as, are these still the community agreements that we live by? What do you want to add to it? Yes. Still good. I hear that. And hearing no one raise their hand or wanting to make any changes. So these are the community agreements that we want to honor, today as we do our work. We want to make sure that these are foremost in our minds. And so, I just hope that everyone has internalized them and we'll be able to practice them as we go forward. Okay? So we're good with this, just as it is. But at any point in time that you feel like you wanna add something more, you don't have to be at a meeting. You can call me, you can call staff, you can say, hey, I heard of this at another meeting that I was at, and I thought it would be good to add to our community agreements and our values. And so we can talk about that at our next meeting. So please, I extend that to you. So now we're gonna move to the part where I'll ask Casey to give us an overview of today's meeting.
Will do. Thank you, Chair Jennings. Okay, so just a quick recap. Hopefully this feels very familiar to all of you, starting our meetings with these, but it just helps to ground us in where we are and where we've been and where we're going. So this journey is really concluding 2 years of this particular form of the working group in implementing and monitoring SACOG's Racial Equity Action Plan. And we are now at this moment of finalizing updates to the plan. So thank you all for being with us through that whole journey. And when I look at just the fall, we've done quite a bit of work. September through October, the working group was both working together at your September meeting, and then we also had some ad hoc meetings of different groups of you with SACOG staff in October to dig into the operations pieces of the of the Racial Equity Action Plan, the programs pieces, the board practices pieces, so that we could, look at, I still have today up there, sorry. So in November, we came together and we started to hone in on what are the changes that we should make. Today, December 6th, is where staff has taken all of that work we've done together over the last few months to recommend some updates to the goals and objectives of the Racial Equity Action Plan. So we are looking to vet and finalize those with all of you today. We also have for you a proposed charge for the Race Equity Inclusion Working Group for its next 2 years. And so we'll be going over that with you today. So there's actually 2 things that we're looking for your approval on to move forward to the SACOG board. And the SACOG board at its December 19th meeting will be receiving those recommendations and be taking action. Okay. I think that's it for the overview of today. And you won't just be sitting down with that. But makes you feel better. We'll be getting up and trying to do some interaction. Okay.
Okay. So were you also gonna recap last meeting?
Yes.
As far as overview of the last meeting?
Yes, so the last meeting was November, and we brought to you all of the feedback that we had been receiving from September, from honestly at the staff level. We had been working and talking together for a number of months from all of the ad hoc meetings that happened in October. So we shared all of that with you. We actually talked about what kinds of changes we might be making to objectives and goals in the plan. And then actually what we did from there is we drafted changes. So we're going to go into that some more, but on the boards and in the packet that we sent to you, we have staff taken all of that input and said where we are proposing that we keep a goal or objective the same, where we propose modifying it or deleting it and the reasons why, as well as where we might want to add something, but we also explain why. So we're trying to show, here's the progress we've made. Oh, thank you, Chair Jennings. That's something that I think maybe this group doesn't know. In November, in our meeting, we also had done just a look back at like what successes have we had as a group all together. And then Chair Jennings and Vice Chair Soon actually gave that same presentation to the SACOG board. And I think that's something that I would like to actually turn to you to ask if you want to share about that. And also actually any of the board members who were participating.
But I think when we gave the look back and all the accomplishments, it sparked some good conversation with some of our other members. I loved one of our board members basically personify why we do this. Talk about how the experience, not having access to it, and give a real life experience to how the nexus between our work and transportation, which has been, I'm not gonna, I'll stop short of calling it controversial. I just say that it's become something of a conversation. Board is, we are a transportation planning body. Why does RE work wrong here? So, and much respect for all my colleagues. Some of them were new too, so people were just inquiring. So I think it was a great outcome of our presentation of the successes, having that conversation, and then having one of our board members talk about her personal experience and how investments, REI, equity, like transit available, helped her as a child. So I kind of walked from it. That's why.
And I think one of the things that we're seeing happen is because of the REI work that we're doing here, we're seeing it spread out to all the jurisdictions throughout the region. And that makes me very happy because to me, I thought it started here. It may have started in other places. I'm not gonna say it didn't, right? But for me, it started here. Then I started seeing it start to spread out. So others, now I start to see us starting to work together. So it's just not people doing it alone by themselves, but they're starting to reach out to different jurisdictions, say, let's work together to try to make sure that we're moving at the same pace, same path. So it's just not something that's kind of hidden behind a positive. It's now something that everybody is not afraid to say: race, equity, and inclusion. What does that mean? What should that mean to our jurisdiction, to our community? Why is it important? So those conversations are being held in ways that can benefit everyone. So I'm real proud of that. That was one of the things I took from that meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
You're good?
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, I want to thank you for that overview and let you know that this is an important day for us. And also December 19th will be an important day for us as well. After 2 years, we're going to recommend updates to the goals and objectives of the SACOG's Racial Equity Action Plan. We call that REAP, Racial Equity Action Plan. I call that a phone call. You cannot get to me right now. Turn your phone.
Visualize this. I try to call Rick.
Holidays. So we're going to also recommend what the REI working group should focus on for the next 2 years. We get to do that because of our focus and dedication over the last 2 years of the work that we've already done, right? We've had successes, we've had lessons learned, and with that wisdom, we can prepare for even a better next 2 years because we've got a good foundation. I think our foundation is strong, and we can even make it stronger if we want to, but we can start preparing for the next 2 years. Staff has prepared draft goals and objectives for us to review. And at this time, I'm going to ask staff to walk us through these goals and objectives for us to review. Eric will talk through the proposed changes to the operation objectives. Casey will talk through the proposed changes to the program objectives. And James will talk through the proposed changes to board practices, objectives, and goals. Okay.
All right, and I think right before I turn it over to Eric, just want you to know that we're gonna give kind of thematic descriptions because when we're done, we're actually gonna ask you to break up into groups to go and actually look at the goals and objectives, but I'll talk about that a little bit more. So we have a couple of bites of this apple for you to and then also give feedback. Okay, so at a high level, we want you to know that there are all of the goals within the Racial Equity Action Plan. After all of our evaluation, we said, you know what, these are enduring, these should continue. There's just one that we made modifications to, not the spirit, but just the clarity of it. And then we have a number of goals that, or sorry, objectives where we are modifying them. Believe it or not, we counted, there were 25 objectives. So there's a 25 tasks for us to carry out. And so there's a little bit of tweaking there, right? We deleted one, we've added a couple, and we'll talk about why that is. So with that, I'm gonna let Eric talk about operations.
Great, thanks. So just to kind of kick off, as Casey mentioned, like the theme of operations, I think it differs a little bit from programs and board practices. Speak up, okay. So I would say that it is a little bit different than the programs and board objective or goal areas, in that it's really focused on the internal operations of SACOG, and a lot of the goals and a lot of the objectives that we set out in the first year were really setting up internal structures, right? Because as we went into this work, we found that, you know, a lot of the best practices that you should have as an organization to consider, you know, race and equity and kind of how you organize, how you hire people, we didn't have those things, or maybe they were informal practices. So the theme, I think, we'll see if you go to the next slide, is that we're really modifying a lot of these objectives to move from kind of a startup objective to an ongoing programmatic objective of this is what we're going to do then going forward. So now that we've figured out how are we going to track demographics, our ongoing activity, for instance, is about what does that look like? Are we reporting annually? What do we do with the data? So so that's kind of that in a nutshell. Yeah, go to the next one. Again, we can flow through these pretty quickly. So the same with goal 2, these are kind of about how we hire our staff and the programs we have, just moving them into tweaking a little bit. You know, one learning example that I will highlight is objective 2D, where we focused in the first 2 years on building a summer internship program to do kind of an early career experience for people who have no background in government whatsoever, and that's been really helpful. But what we've also reflected on is that we didn't have a formalized agency-wide process for internships and that kind of early career thing, and so we want to step back and look at what is the experience and how do we build the pipeline in our like relatively modest sized staff to make sure it's not just an experience for those, but it's something that kind of passes through. So if you're a graduate student and you come to SACOG, you really learn more than just the GIS work that you might be assigned to, but kind of you also get the work you've developed for these early career internships. And then rolling into the third operational goal here, this is focused on procurement. I'll kind of thematically just summarize this one if you move to the objectives, that we've realized that a lot of what we hope to do in this area is really constrained by what we have. And I think the real opportunity is to focus on externally, how do we just do a better job of promoting the opportunities? And then internally, what do we do to kind of help project managers understand how to work with new vendors to work with us? And also just kind of better understand as you're designing a procurement, you know, if you have $1 million budget, you could put out a solicitation for $1 million, likely gonna get a large established firm. But is that what you're really trying to do? Like, what are your tasks and how could you maybe approach that in a different way where you break it into smaller contracts where it's easier for smaller firms to engage SACOG for the first time? So I think that really wraps up the operations. I'm sure if you want to take questions now, or we're also doing breakouts where we can talk a little bit more if you have questions.
Yeah, I would say if you have questions, hold them or write them down, because the next phase we will actually have time for questions. We're going to move on to programs now, so I'll talk about that. Our programs goal 1 is about increasing engagement with community representatives of a number of different groups that come, again, straight out of our the racial equity statement of change and commitment that a prior form of this group had created and that the board had adopted. So we're trying to really increase engagement with them with that goal. in trying to achieve that goal, what we have learned is that we should definitely continue a couple of our objectives that is about building relationships with different groups. We are proposing to delete one of our objectives. It's about creating an engagement plan for our blueprint update, which is a long-range plan. We completed that, and what we determined is, what we learned from that is, hey, we established a lot of relationships, and so really it's about maintaining those and maintaining engagement in SACOG's programs. And so that, the continuation of that really moves into some of the other objectives in the programs area. The two around it specifically, which have to do with community-based organizations and tribal governments. And when I get into programs 2, this goal is about increasing funding for programs and projects that prioritize race, equity, and inclusion, and or specifically engage underrepresented and underserved communities in the region. What we've learned a lot with this one, I would say the last 2 years we realized we were piloting practices for doing that, and we have learned from that from the Engage, Empower, Implement program, which you've all weighed in on over the last 2 years, with our Mobility Zones program, which was just launched in the last year, and also with some of the work we've done on blueprint engagement. So learning from that, also the conversations that this group has had around defining principles of meaningful community engagement, the next phase of working towards this goal, we think, is actually trying to take those lessons and those learnings and operationalize them across the programs at SACOG. So we've modified a couple of objectives, one that's about incorporating equity frameworks and community-led planning principles into not just the one program, Engage, Empower, Implement, but into all of SACOG's programs. So the objective is to try to work towards that. We've also modified an objective about that's really looking at our program development, implementation, and evaluation process. And we're actually going to be taking all of those lessons and like redoing that process so that equity considerations are every step of the way. And then we're adding 2 new objectives because we also in the last 2 years built some tools or understood there's some need. So one of those is you all helped us to develop equity indicators for our regional monitoring program. So now we want to make sure that in designing our programs, we use those equity indicators to define and design the program. So that's an addition. And then the last one there is we're recognizing that as we do all of this work of, trying to make sure we're investing properly, that we're tracking the funding that we actually do put out, like what impact is that having. So programs, tasks have really grown as a result of the last 2 years, or they will grow as a result of that. And then lastly, for programs goal 3, this goal is about SACOG supporting and learning from member and local partner agencies. So it's for us to be a part of a learning community. We're proposing modifications based on our experience in the last 2 years. So one that we're just tweaking the way that we try to do convening. We're not really worried about the format of how we work with people, but really what's the substance of the collaborations that we have with partners. And then the second is tying much more closely to programs. When we design a program for our members, say it's a funding program, or we have created a new plan and we never implement ourselves directly, it's with partners. This has us really focusing on developing toolkits, resources, and support for the members who are and working in collaboration with that. So it's, again, I think the theme is going to be we're taking what we started with in the last 2 years and we're now trying to move to the next level of implementing, expanding, operationalizing. And I'm going to let James now talk about work practice.
All right. All right. Last but not least on board practice, worth reminding ourselves the goal, which is that the board will deepen its understanding of how race, ethnicity, income, geography affects the social outcomes of communities throughout the region. Next slide. So we had
one modification in this, in the first goal here. We're gonna continue having at least 2 board workshops with speakers. Each year, we have these offsite board meetings, but we also have 2 topics at least on workshops throughout the year on racial equity. We also do a tour that's related once a year to a racial equity topic in a local, one of our local jurisdictions. We are modifying Objective 1B, which is just providing new board members a primer on SACOG's REI work. The modification here is to really put an emphasis on some of our new board members because, as many of you know, 31 member board group now have 8 new board members joining. So we're going to have quite a turnover again next year. And then the site visit is an Objective 1C. So second goal is the one that Casey referenced earlier that is changing. The original language here was to the effect of SACOG will consider racial equity impacts in its triple bottom line decisions. When we spoke with many of you and many board members and had an ad hoc, it was a very basic question like, what does that mean? What does that mean? So we really just tried to reframe this and restate it, as Casey said earlier, for clarity, because this is what it means basically is that we are going to do our work as staff to make sure we give the board opportunities to consider inclusion of both equity frameworks. An example of this past year has been our transportation funding program, where the board has approved adoption of an equity framework program. And then, of course, as this body has worked quite a bit on community engagement principles, meaningful community engagement principles it's been the topic here around this table a number of times, and incorporating those into either new or updated SACOG programs. So let's just go through the modification here is really about actually just holding us accountable in the course of a calendar year, that we would start the year using the REI working group and going to the board and say, hey, here's what's coming this year, right? It's our job as staff to tell you all, here are the opportunities, here are the major programs, here are the places in which we're going to be either rethinking as the funding round, we're launching something brand new. So that would be the beginning of the calendar year, and then very simply, the second objective would be at the end of the year, we do the look back, right? So what did we do? Where did we try to incorporate this? What were the lessons learned? What was the feedback from the board? So we're trying to really clarify this one because we have had quite a bit of conversation on the previous iteration of this and sort of what it meant and how we applied it. So hoping that provides a bit more clarity. And then perhaps the obvious one, which is always good to end on, which is the board maintaining consistent engagement with respect to the action plan implementation process. No change here. I think that is exactly actually what we've been doing with this working group forward. We think it's been effective and it should continue as for the goals, a couple of modifications here on maintaining that sort of connection to our racial equity action plan. We just, as you, again, this working group weighed in on our regional monitoring and reporting program. We just launched our new regional monitoring report at the November board meeting. So we're really excited about this. It's sort of the dashboard. Again, we provided a lot of input, many of the people have. We have cut a lot of that data by race, ethnicity, but also by income and by geography. So that's going to be a big one for us moving forward. We're looking at doing sort of annual updates and refreshers on that for the full board in the region. That actually has been picked up a couple of places since its release, one of which actually is the city of Sacramento, some of the awful problem they're having with fatality and injuries with bicyclists and pedestrians. So big newspaper story actually was used with the data from our monitoring report. So we don't like the fact that it's an issue, but it's really important the fact that we were able to release that data, make it publicly available, and it was showing also the disparities, right? Every community has this. The city of Sacramento has really, as Chair Jennings knows, been working on this quite a bit. And then the modification on 3B is just to basically say that we're gonna continue the REI working group, we're gonna continue to have it. Next topic on the charge, we'll get into this in detail, but for the next couple of years, 25, 26, and what the focus is there, we're just referencing two things, board engagement, and one is integrating equity and community engagement in stakeholders programs. More on that on your next item. But so that's the round out, that's the finishing up the board practice.
So I know that was a really fast overview of all of this. So what we'd like to do now is invite you to divide up into 3 groups. I think we can kind of just go 4, and then maybe, oh, I didn't do that right, but 5, 5, 5, I think we're about there, to spend 3 minutes at each of the focus areas of the Racial Equity Action Plan. And we have Post-it notes for you. So what we'd like you to do is go up there, take a look at them, write your thoughts, your questions, your comments, and stick them next to the different objectives. And then Eric, James, and I will be standing there too if you want to first, just process something out loud before you make any comments. But any questions you have, we'll also happily take those during that time.
So over here are large versions of our board practices,
Yes.
our operations, our program. And so all the goals, objectives that are up there, you want us to give you comments and thoughts on what's on those boards.
Yes.
Everybody good?
We can do time.
And then, yes, may I ask Robert when the next time taking?
Yes, how long would you?
3 minutes, 3 times.
So they'll rotate.
Yes.
Okay.
And then what I have here, I'm gonna put the shoes for everyone.
Oh, there are? Yes,
Yeah.
right next to it.
Thank you.
Just got to wind down and-
You
didn't do it.
I know.
Always helping.
And then you benefit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I still got pepper here.
Yeah, there you go.
If regular pens here too.
And it doesn't matter what, oh, no, it doesn't matter.
Okay, that's right, in case you don't want colors, but.
No matter to the color combination, it's whatever color combination you want. Okay.
So we have
So Lucas.
each objective, we have and you just have, that all out. And we're
Yes,
obviously
there's
going to
definition
use
of
all
racial
of those,
equity
so
and
you have thoughts on that. And we had this house,
Oh,
yeah, maybe we're just going to first pre-pause and you're figuring out kind of what are the specific tasks.
Yes, that's true. Yes, so, yeah, that's just like, right, and then if there's.
So I just make sure I understand how we got this.
So,
Operation goal number 1,
that's right.
clause and number 1, objective 1A,
All right,
1B,
here we
1C.
go.
Yes, and here's what we have adopted already.
Exactly. Would you like a bow?
Yeah, this is what we. Formalizing the process.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna have a slide disorder. It's been. We're all.
With us today, and then this middle column too is all explanation.
So this is the current program.
Is that one you want to write down?
Sure, I mean, yeah, tell me
This
more about
explains,
this.
I don't have a, I'm just, I just know that it's just an annual assessment. You may to assess. the
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah, if you have any comments or feedback or. Is there a major thought, like, like you can add it and you can ask?
With about 65 people, there's not enough changes unless we do a basis. I think that's right. I know. So with looking at annually, it's enough time for us to have something to look at, but it's not.
First goal,
just
emphasizing.
you see, hey, you know what? We're not getting any more than 3 board members, anybody who's applying for a job, so what's the problem? hearing, like that gives us more information.
So now,
That,
the
so.
reason I think
there- I
I'm
feel
asking
like,
about the annual business versus.
There's probably a lot of.
Yeah, we're doing,
If you're going to.
I don't know, like,
Sharing,
like between 30 seconds, or when you're with that, if you're
population.
that, because I think we've also done.
That's why,
By the way,
we recover from our measure, you already lost it.
Right.
But you're not keeping about it.
I was thinking quarterly look at that and see where every room board can see, right?
Well, so,
It's us
so,
as
so actually, I,
but
so I
also,
think we should make a note on that, or, and then you can show up here as part of the But it also makes me think about, is under here, we have.
If there's a topic area you don't want to go, that's
That
fine.
information needs to be sent real time.
So the engagement was,
Conducting
so this is programs, yeah, and that was
That's right.
for practices, and that's operations.
Exit interview is good, it's absolutely good. But you still have an employee. They need a venue. So they need to purchase license plates. So, as much money as you invest in training. Which is what they do. So I'll just put them through the, okay. Look at quarterly. So I have a question.
Sounds like also maybe on
When you do an orientation.
like that might be under recruitment and retention.
So,
Yeah,
so
like-
that's what we're moving to. So that's been, so we did, it's a brand new training, right? So because this was the first 2 years, we had the luxury of almost everybody was on the same level. So we did some training right now. We're gonna develop something that's just for the new people. And it might be quarterly or twice a year. Everybody can come in, they get.
That's helpful, that's helpful.
Then they're all provided.
So that's, this is how we're trying to operationalize it.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Actually, here. So one of them is to incorporate equity into work, so when we say that, it's like the way that we structure how we use it.
Well, I mean,
Consider
consider his strategy because
So when we design programs,
all we do is
we're
we
trying
then
to
consider
have,
things, right? So you could say, or consider,
programs that we
like in his decision.
we are considering, we want to make these, that we're trying to just kind of get, right, so that we run it.
In his decisions governing the.
And then, well, actually, that's where our funding, sorry, there's two, there's two aspects. One, for the money that we actually give out, we want to incorporate these frameworks. And then two.
This is where we had
So this one.
Yeah.
This is where I'm talking about redesigning how we create our programs around them, and then we also are trying to we're not very even if Facebook doesn't show them like, hey, it's that was out. So we're trying to and that's for that, we actually start with that. And then this new objective is now that we have indicators about demographic separation, let's go to the design and what is the situation? And then this one is just, again, there's such evaluation.
Other organizations would actually have a pipeline to those.
So we're doing it kind of, yes, but we're doing it based on. For example, right now, we're hiring plans.
Timelines,
Okay,
you would
where
have that,
in the
but you can incorporate that to the positions.
Are they not by our following?
They're trying to figure out, okay, are there, there's like, there's an actual, like, we're also saying, make sure we're talking to institutions that say, and also just try to communication, really intentional, to not limit it, right? You could have one range planning experience that actually more important than
So there's no unnecessary issue.
Exactly. I was like, you can have say those things for the people when they come in, but don't let the job description has the self,
So I know you only have. So fast.
Yeah.
This is my right.
Yeah.
Don't. I think community as a whole, right? About there, they have skills. Just trying to figure out where to go.
And so, one of the things that we're trying
Really, actually, the worst case scenario was
Right, start with the
I'm mostly
That's the last 3-minute session.
And then, reviews my thing about. Some of them. Yeah. Right, so it's like a real process. There you go. Right, and I was. Yeah. So that's part of our report. So that might be one. But, yeah.
We're doing such a.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right now, if they, I don't know. Greater winners. Yeah, no.
Yeah, like the data from the race.
Yeah, and that's the same line. So you'll like, you're sliding the things that we
Hello. Good.
Final thing.
All right, we're doing the final 3 minutes.
That was it.
That was the final 3 minutes. All right, okay,
I know.
so I'm hearing you got 5 more minutes.
No.
Well, you got 3 more minutes. Can I get 3? Can I get 2? Can I get 2? 2 more minutes. So wrap up.
Everyone to share, like their
So, yeah, those are the overall said this, and Golden is what it meant. So advice would say.
Oh, it's right.
Get to know what we said.
I know I'm
Planning and engagement with principals. Before you, so which program?
All right. I know.
That's what I'm not doing that much. Sometimes just their job. We work on it and then we do a review at the end of the year. Yeah?
Okay.
Glad for the end of the year.
Yeah, yeah, all right.
All right, everyone. Who's parking? Yeah, we're talking about that.
It's certainly not, trust me,
Okay, we're gonna sit back down.
I mean, you don't have to say, you have to pay attention. Yes.
If you don't need it.
Is it gonna be a little more?
Okay.
On here? Can you put on this one?
All right.
I can't, it's technical.
Okay.
Okay, so, Chair Jennings, I'm happy to,
Okay.
share what we're gonna do next.
Okay, that'd be great.
This is where Danielle and I did the baton work. So, okay, so, thank you all for taking the one, hopefully, you felt like you had enough time at least for one program area. But there was a lot of conversation, which is good. So, what we'd like to do now is to ask the working group if you, for each of you, if there were specific questions that you posted that need to get answered in order for you to feel comfortable with moving these objectives and goals to the board, or if there are things that you want to make sure get changed before it goes to the board. So that's one thing. You can call that out and we'll run up there to look at that and address it. And then if you didn't have any specific questions or changes, but you want to share some reflections for us, we'd also like to hear that at this time. I should also add the next step. So after this goes to the board, the next step is for staff to finish updating the rest of the action plan. So we have to update the actions, the timelines, and the measures and indicators. So you may, in fact, I had conversations on programs with some of you that really are guidance for us for that next phase. So I think that's also fair to share. Does that make sense? Is that too much? No? Okay, good.
We'll find out.
I know, we'll find out, yeah. So first, are there any questions or issues that you want to make sure are addressed before it goes to the board?
And we're talking about going to the board on the 19th of
Yes.
December. So we're on a fast timeline.
Yes.
Like today, we're moving as fast as we can, but making sure that we get input from everybody. So, yeah, questions and concerns, ideas, reflections?
Ideas and questions as well.
Just,
Right here.
yeah. And I've said this before, and we've talked about it, Casey and Eric. I brought up concerns about things within programs, like the EEI process is fantastic in that it allows community-led organizations to get funding. Yet, we need the permission of a government agency to proceed. And it was this whole EEI process, it's successful, but how do we do it differently so that we don't have to be beholden to government permissions and government processes? Because then it puts us back in a process that's not completely led, right? So how do you monitor that? How do you make sure that you're incorporating that? If it's not going to be within the objectives, I understand that, but where are you going to document that kind of work to make sure that doesn't get lost? And then the other is just making sure as we proceed with our work that we're doing one thing. We're really focused on, REI, but then you might have an agency that asks for a letter of recommendation for a grant. And this happened, I talked to Eric about this happened to us, where we were asked, can you give a letter of recommendation or support for this grant for this partner of ours? And my response was no, because they are at odds with the work that we're doing. And so how do we make sure that you're vetting your partners and that you're understanding that perhaps even though they might be saying they are doing REI work, it's not occurring, and our communities, our BIPOC communities are being harmed in the process by some of their work that they're doing or their policies that they're implementing. So how do you keep track of that too, to make sure that it's not left hand, right hand, and
thank you, Lisa. And we did have a conversation, and so the documents are there. Just to catch everyone up on that, we talked about how those issues are very helpful to flag for the implementation part of this. So when we get to actions, when we get to measures and indicators, and even zooming out, when we talk about how the REI working group can be helpful next year, EEI is one of our major programs we are hoping to continue to get advice on. And so that's a pilot for us for so many of our funding programs. So we think there's opportunity. Are there other reflections?
Well, under your workforce development, and I everything in my life is workforce development, that's why I'm there. As you start looking for talent in the region, you might want to reach out to community-based organizations, look out to the workforce system that actually does a lot of recruitment, a lot of state agencies. We actually get a lot of resumes and applications that we can screen and send over to you. So that's something that you can do. We're out in the community, so we know where the talent is. We work with the community colleges and universities, as well as other proprietary firms that actually do train people, like you said, planners. There are planners out there. You just have to kind of beat the bushes and figure out where to find them.
Anybody else? Yes.
Just to reflect a little more about your comment, when there is somebody who is in the minority community applying for a grant, and there's some disagreement about whether they truly reflect the values of the overall minority community, is there a way for them to continue to receive the grant, to be given the opportunity to grow, but with some proper oversight and mentorship?
I was talking about an agency
Okay.
that applied for a grant, a large agency that I was asked to support. Yeah. So it's a large government agency that I was asked to support with another support. And the answer is no, because their work is not supportive of our of the work that needs to happen that supports our health. That's that's that. Thank you.
I do, on that note, on the government agency, there's a comment that was added there. Can we, I'm not gonna capture it quite right, but if they could reach out to those partner agencies or member agencies that maybe are not focused on racial equity or just any type of equity work, or who are very new to it. And I think that is we had a conversation about this in I think our programs, one of our ad hoc meetings, but the answer to that is, I think, yes, we could. What we're trying to now do with this next phase is how do we tailor our engagement so that we are supportive of wherever our members are at, it's broad spectrum. So that's kind of some of the work ahead for us.
I think there's a lot of opportunity for you to provide the education and training for a lot of agencies. And so I don't want to discount that. I'm just saying they just need to be educated.
Sure, yeah.
And you're in a prime position to do that.
Yes.
I think maybe, I'm gonna trip over my words here. So I guess that gets me licensed to trip over words. But I guess the hypothesis is that by integrating sort of this lens into sort of land use transportation projects, that there's gonna be good things that come out of it, right? For certainly for historically disadvantaged communities and communities overall. And so I think it might, so over time, this work is still pretty new in its life cycle. So is it worth tracking and just building up some points, right? Here are the cases where, yeah, it's really like worked out and maybe in ways that were surprising, that were beneficial, that, resulted in, X millions of dollars that wouldn't have, gone to certain communities. And so, are there sort of a collection of stories, sort of proof points, maybe even a bit more rigorous evaluation that can show you can't do sort of a randomized controlled trial and something like this, right? But what would happen if this wasn't in place, but now that this is in place, these communities are taking advantage of what's been the return for those communities, maybe through an economic comparative lens, as opposed to like, this is the right thing to do. For some, I'm not here to judge, but for some, it's like that might not be, the number one thing on their list.
Fair. So what we've done today by going around and putting those sticky notes on the board, we're gonna help clarify, we're gonna help to refine, we're gonna help to make the goals and objectives better. And so your help has been invaluable in that way, because it's gonna help us to get to something that's even better than what's on the sheets that you see right now. But on the 19th, we're gonna take this to the board. And I need to know from this group, we're not a voting body, so we don't have to vote on it. But, we can give a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or we can open our mouths and say, you have left something significant out. But if not, we're gonna go forward with what we got up there with the changes and refinements that we've all made as much as possible. We're gonna go forward with these goals and objectives. I just wanna make sure as we get ready to do this, that we're all in, right? So just a little nod of the head, one way, up and down, lets me know. Side to side says no. Like thumbs up, all right. Kind of hand up, cool.
Oh.
Got one, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yes, it's a thumbs up. I think you all have done a great job, and even how the goals have evolved over the last year. They seem clear. I think I mentioned that when we were talking. So I really appreciate that, and I think they're understandable. The one thing I would add, I don't think there's anything majorly missing. The one thing I would add is be prepared for your board to the how of it. You might need to lean in a little bit in that is, so when you say, trying to remember whether it's going to be, we're going to reevaluate and look at how we're going to do community engagement. By how are you going to do that? Is that going to be like through a process map? Is it going to be through some general principles that you've already outlined as a body? Are you drawing from a racial equity tool or a process? So I think because that could really enliven what these goals you're going to. I know it's not going to be the focus because you're still learning how. But if you can give like a little taste or flavor of that, I think in anticipation for you at the 19th, or what that looks like, or what it could look like, I think it would enliven the status and the objectives. So like, especially those where they haven't been started, we're thinking about adapting a racial equity lens from some agency in order to determine what our next steps are in terms of building relationships with the tribal community. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, because to say you're doing the tribal community, but that's huge. How do you go about doing that? And so just giving a little bit of maybe some thoughts about maybe the first couple of steps, or that mechanism that's going to operationalize those where you can and how you can, knowing that it is the 19th. That's what I would offer. Kind of tool, kind of framework, what's the approach, because that will also lean into your status and your objectives too. It could help define what those are, so you know you're moving in the direction.
For me, one of the, I really appreciate the educational piece that we've come out on that side, especially reading Color of Law. The book was really, really beneficial to me. But I think so much of this is going to depend on the delivery, quite frankly, from the board. aren't really defensive, I guess, because I think I feel a little bit of that. So the why are we doing it and how it applies and how we're trying to work to bring out the best benefits that we can. This isn't a finger pointing or a, you know, because I think there's a little bit of defensiveness. I didn't do it, you know, so I think the delivery is good there.
Good. And just to point on that, I picked up a sense of not defense, but resistance to the idea in general. Couple faces come to mind, and has some more majority rules and all that. But to me, the need for this is no brainer. Still have some people who are pushing back on it, maybe a very basic plain language. Why it's so important, and be nice if they give it another shot or some more attention to why we're here. So, it hurts to see the eye roll over something so important.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. So I totally agree. That's why I've always come at it from the economic side, because I feel like that one, is a little more compelling, right? And then I really hope is our alternate from all that. But her personal story, I was great. I got exactly to the why, and so it's but I'm just emphasizing. I agree with you, and I suggest that the economic benefit of more people contributing to the economy because they give it a chance or help or by investing in appropriate infrastructure to enable them to job or be that contributing to society. I think that I suggest that's a compelling argument. And I'm sharing with all of you because maybe we can all be consistent.
Well, that and the dynamic at the federal level where we're seeing the state now wrapping up and the rhetoric is getting intense, and then this shows up. So then we have newly elected who are going to be looking at this in their first meeting. So explain, a little bit of the history.
This is starting to warm us up for the next item. So you want to start?
Go ahead, Chair Jennings. So we didn't know that we were going to have a quorum, and you actually are far exceeding the quorum. So one of the ways in which you might be able to bring this to the board in a couple of weeks and further emphasize the commitment here is to take and record that and then communicate that. So the reason we gave you this sort of let's just see how we're feeling about it. Fewer than 10, but you came out enough despite the traffic.
We talked about, onboarding new members, and we have a required training package.
Yeah. So if you'd like to do that.
So we have reviewed and finalized and recommend, now we want to recommend the goals and objectives for racial equity action plan to the full council.
Sorry.
Thank you. We have a
Just
motion
kidding right
to
out.
move the item. Is there a second? There's a second. I got a second, I got a third. Is there a fourth? So without any further question or discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstain? We are unanimous. I love it. Good job. All right, so I'm gonna take you to the final item of today, right? Because I don't want you to be here all night and have to deal with that traffic and all that other stuff. But the last item today is to decide on the charge for the 2025 REI working group. And I'm gonna ask James to walk us through the staff's proposal. The staff has done a lot of work on this, and James is gonna kind of walk us through that.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah. Happy to do that. So if you remember at our November meeting, we walked through, we had 5 suggested sort of focus areas for the year. And we asked you to, could you put your thumb on the scale And I would say there were no clear winners in all of that. If you remember, it was good discussion. There was a lot of interest in the board next year. And basically how, we can talk a little bit about today already, how do we collectively think and how can we get your collective brain power to figure out what is onboarding look like next year? And what does engagement for the full board look like next year? And then in addition to that, we had a number of different sort of some specific ideas around our upcoming funding round, around our data and analysis. And essentially what we've done with the charge here is we group these into kind of two buckets. So the first is, although it's flipped on that, it's totally fine. Yeah. So the first is onboard engagement, right? So it helps shape the entire board's engagement, education, RIA-related topics. That's number one for the charge. And then second, we sort of pulled together a couple of those, additional bullet points from November to say basically, and this relates back to the update to the Racial Equity Action Plan, help integrate racial equity and principles of meaningful community engagement to specific SACOG programs that will be developed or launched in 2026. So in some ways, we're trying to pull together a little bit of your discussion and put it under two kind of general groups there. Every working group and committee adopts a charge. In some ways, you're getting out ahead here. But since you've done so much work, it's fresh in your mind, we thought this would be good for you today to review this, take action on it, and set the course for the REI next year. And then we do have a bit of an exercise on this, right, around specifically kind of digging into board engagement ideas. But first, I'm happy to take any questions on the charge.
Seeing none? Going once, going twice? All right, let's keep
Yeah,
going.
we are gonna ask you to recommend the charge to the board. Bring that forward too.
We're gonna take another road.
The Daniel discussion, that's still on?
That's gonna still be on, yes. That's the brainstorm we wanted to break into groups on board engagement in particular, because we just know it's of interest and it's very timely.
Okay.
Yeah. But perhaps, I don't know, perhaps we could get the vote on the charge first, because then at that point it's kind of official that we wanna work on.
Okay. So what we're saying is we want to look at each of you to tell us, support the charge, whether or not we're comfortable taking the charge to the full board on December the 19th. And so if we all support the charge and take it for the board, I would say all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, again, we are unanimous.
Okay, so in that case, we want to take the conversation that you all started and we want to actually dig in. So we're asking you for say 15 minutes to break into 3 groups. One of them, one group would be focused on what kinds of topics do you think would be good for board workshops for the board and including speakers, because that is one of the major engagements we have for the board. A second group to talk about what information should be included in an REI primer for new board members, what kinds of onboarding, you kind of already started that conversation, so that would be a second group. And then the third group would talk with us about the annual site visit, we call it. So it's where we go to a different community region and we learn about it. So what places, what community groups might be engaged. So we're hoping to get that brainstorm with you. It will help staff tremendously as we have to plan out the next year. So maybe what we can do is have kind of just use these boards as go-to areas. So workshop topics over there, board on new board member onboarding here, and then REI site visit over here.
Before we do that,
Yeah.
sorry, do you want to entertain a motion in a second? for
Yeah,
that
that's what I was
vote?
going to do.
Well, we just need to move
We need a
first and a second.
second.
Okay,
I second.
Director Flores.
so where's the first? Right here, second? You just wanna
We just need to
clarify who it is.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't. He said, we talking here, but we need a first and a second.
You're hired, William.
Good.
We're just saying it.
Covering each other.
Board workshop topics over there. Onboarding new board members up here, and then REI site visit over here.
So can I ask a question? I know this was a new group 2 years ago. So you did do some orientation for your board. So what did you present to that board that compelled them to move forward on this initiative?
So the first working group that involved a composition like this of board members and public members, that group developed a racial equity statement of change and commitment. The reason that group was created because we had very supportive board leadership that said we should take this on. And so they created a statement of change and commitment. Some of you were actually on that. I think Lisa and Christine, I can't remember who else was on there. So we created that. It went through quite a process, even at the board, and then the board unanimously adopted that statement of change and commitment. And then from there the commitments that were built into that statement, we acted on them. One of them was to develop a racial equity action plan. So the working group helped us to develop that, which then went through a similar process of vetting in which the board was adopted. So one of the key, actually, the 3 topic areas that I'm asking you all to weigh in on, those are activities that were identified when we were listening and learning to board members and partners about what SACOG should put into its racial equity action plan. So the workshops are, we've done at least 2 this year. I remember. We definitely have done at least 2 each year for the last 2 years. We also, for the new, specifically to your question, William, about new board members, we have held, we do an REI, we call it a primer/refresher for the full board in the first quarter of each year. So we've done that twice, and we'll do it a 3rd time. But the question of onboarding new board members is the question that we want to answer now, because that's an addition to the objective. It's like, how do we want to do that?
And so, just if I can, because this is important, I think, so as Casey walked through, it's really this group and all of you as the public members informing and shaping, and then the 10 board members around this table. That is the reason. You said, like, what did you say to them when they were brand new to got into it? The answer is, that is really a completely just a one-on-one, here's what we're doing. It was this group in 21, 22 that did the statement and then the racial equity action plan. It has been your group now who's helped oversee it. That's the power of it lies in the 20 of you around this table every other month or every quarter. And then the board members, all of you going back to the full board and saying, this is why, this is the why. Because we have 8 new board members coming in, it's really important, I mean, Dr. Gayali has said this, right? To how do we explain this? How do we talk about why this is important? We are not expecting they're going to take that and be like, great, all right, I'm 100% there, let's go. But it's the first step, right, in a process. We are also talking about with Vice Chair soon, who should be chairing the board next year, a sort of inclusive leadership training for the board members. It would be voluntary, but it would consist of, say, 3 or 4 sessions outside board meetings around things like racial equity, implicit bias, how do you be a leader in your community on these issues? How do you talk about it? So that's something else we're looking at to further give the board an opportunity to kind of develop this muscle on this. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
So the onboarding is really the 101. It's the welcome to SACOG. There's a bathroom and here's the racial equity action plan.
So at the end of the day is to develop an interest in on the new members in how this works.
Yeah.
And what's good about it.
Yep, exactly.
And I hear you say new members, but I think it extends even beyond that. You know, I think I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity, if they miss something along the way, that they have the opportunity, because we're all busy people, so we don't make 100% of the meetings. So if there's something that you missed, you can now get it in this whole evolution of going from one stage to the next. Of course, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Too, even the time, this is gonna be interesting that we're doing this in December. We're gonna have so many new members.
You're gonna have some of those new members on December 19th.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Or alternates anyway, alternates.
Alternates.
Yeah.
Who could potentially be an official member.
And they won't have this information, and so I can visualize that there'll be some pushback.
Could be. Could be.
Because they haven't had the opportunity, and then it's
Right.
just hitting them, and they,
And we're constantly changing out, it seems like. So having this, adopting something, like this for the onboarding will be useful forever.
And just a reminder on this, we actually wanted to try to get this to the board in November originally because of this change. And it was for good reason. If you remember, we actually realized, and staff here, actually, this is gonna take quite some time. We had the ad hoc groups, right? We kind of really dug into this, which I think is why it shows in the work up here. So we kind of knew December was gonna be tricky. But again, I think a lot of this is you as the board to your peers, and then if nobody else can come on December 19th, it's 9 a.m., you're certainly welcome.
It's a real invitation to our public members, yeah.
And I'll give you all the details about at the end on the 19th, the time and everything, so you have that in case you wanna make sure you're here. As part of my wrap.
Chair James, if I could add, so if you do come, you're willing, when the item comes up, to add your own comments so that the board can hear.
So do you wanna break up into 3 groups, or did you wanna just, we take one subject and all of us pile in and get it done? Which one can we move faster with?
I think if we break up and we do 10 minutes, I know I'm cutting it a little bit short,
Okay.
but break up and then come back together and then share that out. I think that might get us.
You said board workshops where?
The workshops are right there.
Workshops.
Yeah.
Board workshops there, and then the onboarding is in the middle,
Onboarding right here, that'll be.
In the middle?
James.
and then the annual site visits,
Me, oh,
right over here.
Yep.
You guys, everybody got it?
yes.
I know you're planning on hope too, and.
Really? 2 years is too long.
I'm going back to see, yeah, it has to be. Can you do this every year? It was. Yeah.
I want to say, I got told about a request, but I didn't know how to work it. Whatever the locations are that are chosen, there's some nexus of presenting how central planning.
It's a
Or
workshop, yeah.
past issues impact the current planning. But there's so many other areas. Ground yard 505. Like
What do you think?
Everybody needs the color of law.
Yeah. Yep.
And maybe it's.
Thinking about like usually 30, 45 minutes.
No, I didn't have a chance to bring them up here. I probably have one minute already.
Thank you.
localities that it's a real issue.
Really
I'm just trying to get everything up here, so like they're not.
You would have seen the pages of last year.
So what is training workshop? Yeah, and actually, that's putting it out there. So they probably, you know, market.
So whatever we use grants for,
Yeah.
Well,
so like, that is grants.
Yeah, so it's
we
like.
can use couple things to talk, an additional.
I think we believe
So I think a workshop like that.
And I'm
Maybe some update to that report as well.
Yeah, they've been working on possibly together and they just get that report.
It's actually, it's working, it does, trying to see that action, trying to get there, so just like data, we kind of wave break that, nothing out of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically said we are not.
Yeah.
And then showing others. So
So
I think hearing that.
Yeah.
We're like,
Like corporate guys.
yeah,
okay.
Well, I will say when both mentioned Jimmy Crocker came to our board and just like, I was ready for pushbacks or whatever, and people were just kind of like, it was so narrow. Wow. Yeah, and we're gonna do that with the board retreat, we're gonna do it all through, a couple each year on this house.
Part of let's make that part of
What else on our board?
Yeah, that'd be great. Communities and race.
And the other was, Darren brought in that and red line was history. Yes. That dog ran like
And he had a restricted information coverage from landlords, like his friend's house, right? Yeah.
And most of the people are known for their health care, right? Most of the people for Auburn. Oh, yeah, like, and so they feel these less impacts on classes, but yeah, impacts on race classes, right? And so it actually impacts everything, so now that so anyway, that's not quite the story, that's part of the prior, but it's like, this is, your constituents, right, right, how important it was, there's time. Why they're making your policies. A lot of that.
I don't know what it is.
Why
It
not?
might be really different.
Yeah. Yeah, so we do like a one side of the year or something. I know, it's a nice idea, she likes it.
And it just is very. So in some ways, that's really
Yeah,
kind of, you know what I mean?
Especially so many, I feel like he has like, he's a creator of tagline, like one is like, so like, we don't all start in the same, we don't all start in the same place, and we're like, we're all in the same race, you know, or like something like, it's like, that's, because you can appeal to people, right, like, the belief that we're, yeah, and the, like, coaches to recognize the difference, jumping on that.
And that's what we've tried on the site, in particular, really shows that, you know, it's actually an issue that it's right next to.
Yeah, oh yeah. Walmart just,
There was here or something, it was so shocking, so surprising. But changes. And if you're a,
So. Right. Yeah, so. Yeah, totally gives you chills, right? Yeah, no, that's really.
Okay, good. I will be there soon. I'm just gonna be there in downtown San. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, Universal,
Yeah. It's true. It's so interesting because that's like top priority project.
It makes sense to me.
Back 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay.
I realize I was thinking. You can get. Yeah. I would have. Well, we may have some names, but yeah.
I thought maybe she went to the bathroom or something. But she didn't come back. I better check mine before I forget.
So I mean,
Thank you.
Thank you. No. I'm glad. It wasn't really fun, but.
And then, I loved it, but I got the picture.
Yeah, so busy, so. Oh my God. Really?
You can, it is hard.
Yeah.
Right.
It's down to 6%.
Yeah.
I think that's where I started. I went somewhere around there and then 4 and then went 1.
No, really? That's a haircut?
That was amazing. So excited.
That's awesome.
You better be seeing it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I want to thank everybody for their work. on this. And I want to give you an opportunity to report out today, or staff will summarize everything and report out to us for the 19th, right? So if you're good with the second proposal, it allows us to get you out of here earlier. If you want to get it today, then we'll just stay here a little bit later and do it today. So I just want to give you that option. Earlier, later.
That sounds like a threat to me.
Later, later.
Later.
I think all of us, we understand that. So I just want to thank you. It's been an honor and privilege to work with all of you. I enjoy this more than you know. To be able to sit here in front of you and to be able to do this work with you, who a bunch of smart people who are dedicated, committed. I just enjoy having you on my team, and I enjoy working. So it's a privilege for me to lead this group, and I've been doing this work for the last 2 years. So I'm happy to continue doing it as long as you'll have me, as long as you guys are working side by side. I won't do it unless you do. So I just want to thank you. We talked about these recommendations. They're going to be forwarded on the 19th meeting, December the 19th meeting. And you've already been invited to attend, and I hope you will. I'm going to make sure that I'm there as well. At that time, we'll meet at 9 o'clock on the 19th in the SACOG boardroom. The members will be there, this working group, staff, everybody would love to see you in support of these recommendations. And when you get there, I want to make sure if you get the feeling that your voice should be heard, you open your mouth, because you know my favorite saying in the whole world is a closed mouth don't get fed. Okay? So I want you to open your mouth, and I want you to be able to say what you got to say and your experience on all this, because it's going to influence a lot of people who didn't go through what we've gone through together. So I want you to do that. And I know the SACOG board will truly benefit from hearing from all of us that are here in this room. So I'll open it up for any questions or comments. December 19th, 9 o'clock, boardroom. That's our next time. You'll see our work being presented there, and then you'll have an opportunity for any kind of comments. So anything else? Yes, sir.
If there's not too much to ask, can you send us a meeting invite so I can be sure it's on my calendar?
I'd be happy to.
Perfect. Anything else? Anybody else?
Thank you. Thank you to the staff for.
Don't they do great work?
Yes.
I looked through my notes when they put these meetings together, and I said, man, they are so prepared, and they think of everything. You getting ready to say something?
We appreciate your leadership. This group is wonderful to work with.
Yep. Thank you, Danielle.
And
Yeah,
thank you,
Danielle, thank you. You know,
Thank
your
you all.
presence in the room is always great, and especially because I don't look up at this television all the time to see that you're there. I look forward. I look forward to seeing you at the next opportunity.
Yeah, totally. Have a good holiday season, y'all.
Yeah.
You too, Danielle.
Okay, I'm gonna adjourn this meeting if there's nothing else.